be looking at gaining the blade and or mechanical advantage in rapier fencing, mostly based on the Italian system of the late 16th and early 17th, mid-17th century Italian treatises. How many of you have actually studied the treatises? I know I recognize a few faces, but how many of you have actually taken some serious classes under Italian, the actual Italian classes? Do you understand what I mean by gaining the blade?
Does anyone truly understand?
Okay. Essentially what it means in a nutshell is, and I'm going to try and put this in as close to layman terms as I can. I'll try desperately to stay away from any strange vernacular out there from the treatises and stuff at this point. Essentially putting your sword in a position to close off the most likely attack from your opponent's sword to your body, gaining a mechanical advantage, a literal mechanical advantage of position over their sword. So, they have to do something in order to stay safe or to be able to do anything at all. You put them in a point of constraint is a great word to use, or putting them in check, essentially. That's a great way to look at it. What's Tom's word for it? Obedience. Putting your opponent in obedience, where you've put them in a position they have to do what you want them to. And what do? In Italian fencing, the whole thing of Italian fencing, most fencing altogether, tempo and distance. If you force them into an action, you have to move your sword. In the time that they move their sword, you kill them. That's when you take your action. As their swords freeing themselves, bam, you kill them. What does mechanical advantage mean? The actual physical aspect of it. You do have to kind of understand this. Again, like I mentioned in the last class, lots of Aristotelian concepts of time, distance, measure, mathematics go into this. In the end, KWAR pretty much said it pretty easy. Any time that you have pommels with more of your sword over your opponent's sword, you've gained their sword, essentially. There's a lot more to it than that because of angles and everything. Nancy, do you have your sword in? We'll twist around so you can actually see this, and maybe even have you just like walk around so you can see what we're talking about. Just go ahead and turn it up. We're even. I mean, we're absolutely even. We're the same. No one's in control of anything. Now, I have moved slightly forward. I have put roughly about a palm or more of my sword over his. And essentially, all I'm doing is trying to get more sword over less sword. This is the weakest part of your sword. The debole, as it's called, the weak, the tip. Pretty much to this part of your sword is. It's the weakest part of your sword. It's what you use for offense. There's not a lot of defensive capability out here. Almost none. The middle of your sword is the playing area. You do a lot more defense through here. A little bit, especially if you're still using the full system available to you. Cuts also can come into this area also, and defensiveness. And pluses. This part, strictly defensive. Strictly defensive when it comes to it. You have the widest, meatiest portion of your blade. There's more mass, literally more mass in the blade. So essentially, you can take it the other concept, and then you're trying to put more mass against less mass of the other person to control what they do. Now the important thing, it's not just, okay, I've got more sword here. Because if I stand straight at it, yeah, I've got more sword there, but we're still flat. I don't have any advantage over, because he can just slide forward, and my blade will go off on the side. Wait a minute, that doesn't work. I have more sword over him. How come it didn't work? Angles. Again, kind of another Aristotelian concept. angles defeat straight lines. Straight lines, in turn, can defeat an angle. Take a step back and think about fencing. Can anyone here name essentially the 4 openings that you have in fencing? What are the 4 lines? The 4 common lines.
High outside, low inside, low outside.
Sort of. Essentially, it's above the sword, below the sword, outside, inside. Those are the 4. The other ones come in when you have a dagger, then you have to guard 6 lines. It's actually easier to defend yourself with a single sword because you only have 4 things to worry about, not 6. Another class. So, a straight line, even though it's angled this way, it's angled on the wrong plane. Because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't intersect, it doesn't stop his sword from coming on the most likely line of attack. Straight in. When you start a fight, and if I let him do that, and I go here and not pay attention to where he's going to concentrate on my, oh boy, I got him, I'm going to stick him in the stomach. He's got this horrible threat sticking right at me, and I'm doing absolutely nothing about it. Gaining the sword, taking advantage, making sure that you're safe, and he's not, or at least has to do something else before he can take advantage again. So, instead of just coming here, I angle my blade over the top of his sword. Now, come around and look.
Just sort of point about a hand's width off my choice.
And I'm not touching his blade either, because if I touch it, I give him way too much information. But I'm literally just over his sword. Italian fencing is, most of your attacks are very narrow. Your window of attacks really are essentially the flank of the person that's in front of you. Headshots by some measure, and some authors are, don't do them, you might miss. It's a small target. If you get it, fine, but you're really just looking either here or here. The flank or the lower flank. That's really what your main targets in rapier fencing should be.
Can we see that again? With the gaining the blade?
Gaining the blade. Yeah, we can look at that. Okay. Oh crap, there's a sword pointed at me. I'm going to stay safe. Now, if you notice, it was really subtle, but I put my sword there, and his tip actually just kind of wanted to fade away from my sword. That's just a mental thing, and I'd never noticed that before. That was cool.
I didn't notice it either.
But what happens is, now if I were straight up and down and he came forward like you saw, he just hit me. Now, however, if he comes forward, that small angle changes the division. My point goes into his face, and I'm safe. That's all I need. Trust in your guard. That's what gaining the blade does for you. He has to do something different because his attack is useless. If he attacks on a closed line, woohoo! He's dead. I don't have to do it again. What I said in the first class, Italians are lazy. They want to do the least amount of work possible to kill the other guy. It comes down to efficiency. They want to be as efficient as possible. And this is what helps. Gaining the blade, gaining mechanical advantage. Okay, a couple other things that are going on here in case the edge that's toward your knuckle bow, or where your knuckles are when you're holding the sword, if you're holding it hand fist, or if you have the finger of the quillins. This is your true edge, the cutting edge of the sword, the true edge, the part of the sword that has the most power, mechanical power to it. The false edge, it doesn't. It's much weaker because of the wrist position. Well, okay, body mechanics there. So, not only am I looking to gain mechanical advantage this way in distance, not only am I looking to place an angle against a straight line, I'm also looking to make sure that I keep my true edge, the stronger edge of the sword, toward his. So I have, again, mechanical advantage, or at least the most advantage I can gain from my sword line. The other interesting concept that comes through, again, I don't know why they like Aristotle so much, but it's true. The sword is strongest to the side in which it points. I am very, very strong on this side of my sword if my point is pointing at that shoulder, where I'm weak on this side. And it's a mechanical thing, it really is. sword is always strongest in the direction in which it points.